like to call tonight's regular meeting of council to order. Recommendation that the regular council meeting of November 4th, 2019 be adopted with the addition of item 7A, Catherine Conroy from the Minister of Children and Family Development, a proclamation request. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, second by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Everything good? The other one's been removed. Yeah. Okay, first up, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of October 21st, 2019 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Adie, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 21st, 2019 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Skelton Morvid, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3C, recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 21st, 2019 be received. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, seconded by Councillor Adie. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. First up, we have a report from our city planner regarding the application for development variance permit at 448 8th Avenue East. Welcome back.
Thank you, Your Worship. We received an application for development variance permit for the property located at 448 8th Avenue East. Full application is attached and is one of the better applications prepared by a non-professional engineer or a planner. I'm going to be using it as an example in the future. The application is to vary side yard setbacks in all cases from the minimum of 4 feet to 1.2 feet in the front on the westerly side to accommodate the covered porch. In the rear on the westerly side from between 1.6 and 1.8 to accommodate the main addition, and on the on the easterly side, the previous ones were on the westerly side. On the easterly side, from 4 feet to 2.1 feet, again to accommodate the main addition. The purpose of this variance is to refurbish essentially the uninhabited dwelling into essentially a new house, which would be of benefit to the neighborhood and indeed the community. Mr. Mayor, there is no cost or budget implication for not granting the variance, and in conclusion, the applicant requires approval to proceed to public notification, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments from council? Recommendation that the development variance permit application DP 1913 for 448 8th Avenue East proceeds to public notification. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, second by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding authorization to borrow $450,000 for the Vector truck.
Thank you. In 2018, Council approved the ordering of a Vector truck, and the delivery of the vehicle occurred in 2019, and the financing of the acquisition through the MFA was budgeted in 2019. In order to finance the purchase through borrowing, the MFA requires this resolution, which makes up one of the loan application documents.
Thank you. So the recommendation is whereas under Section 175 of the Community Charter, the Council may incur a liability, and whereas Council adopted the 2019 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw number 3446/2019 on the 9th of September 2019, and therefore be it resolved that the Council gives authorization to borrow from the Municipal Finance Authority $450,000 for the purchase of the Vector truck, Vector 2100 on Peterbilt chassis from Vinmar Equipment Limited, repayment of which is to be made over 5 years with no provisions for renewal. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, once we get new one, what we do with the old one? Like we sell or?
We actually got it at the beginning of 2019, so I can't remember what we did with the old one. Generally, we try and trade those older vehicles in, so I can confirm exactly what happened this year. Yeah. You have, forgive me, it's November now.
Other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding the September 2019 financial variance report.
Thank you. Operating and utility revenues and expenses continue to be on track with the overall budget. Trends are also in line with the previous year. The pool operating expense is higher this year than last. However, this was budgeted for and is a direct result of a longer pool shutdown in 2018 than occurred in 2019. Capital projects are finalizing at this time, and costs will be reflected as final invoices are received.
Thank you. Question? Yeah.
I just have one question on the variance related to transit revenues. I noticed that the costs compared to last year are about even, whereas the revenues have shrunk by about 5 or 6%. So I'm just wondering if that's tied to a reduction in ridership.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. There's been no fare increases for the last few years. It's just a reflection of lower cash ridership, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item 7A, we have a proclamation request from the Minister of Children and Family Development. Recommendation that Council proclaims November 2019 as Adoption Awareness Month in the City of Prince Rupert. Moved by Councillor Randhawa, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have the Prince Rupert Racquet Club regarding a letter of support for their NDIT funding application. The recommendation is that the City of Prince Rupert supports the application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust from the Prince Rupert Racquet Centre for a grant of up to $20,000 for their capital upgrade plan, replacing the solid panel back walls in both squash courts with clear safety glass from the Community Halls and Recreation Facilities Program. Moved by Councillor Moreau, second by Councillor Adie. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a notice of motion that was made by Councillor Cunningham at the councillors. Oh, did I miss something? No, Berry Patch, I believe, has been removed from this agenda for this. Yeah. Oh, was I supposed to make? Oops. I meant to say maybe a friendly amendment to the adoption of the agenda. It was to remove item 7A, Berry Patch recommendation. So if there's the amender and or the mover and the seconder or a friendly amendment, we would remove that request from the agenda because I believe it's on your agendas. It's what you're referring to. Yeah. So we'll remove that one. Okay, next we have 11A. Notice of motion was made by Councillor Cunningham at Council's regular meeting on October 21st, 2019, and the motion reads that Council directs staff to draft a letter to the Transportation Ministry regarding the creation of a reduced rate for North Coast residents traveling from Prince Rupert to Vancouver Island during the winter months. Moved.
Well, yeah, like I spoke on it last time, and I'll speak on it again. It's just that North Coast residents don't have much of a choice if they've got to travel to the south in the winter. And it's a long, treacherous drive on the highways, and sometimes the highways are closed. And I just think, you know, like I know Haida Gwaii has a residence rate, which is the winter rate all year round for summer travel and that. I'd like to see a residence rate for us too, for summer travel for North Coast residents. But I just think that I'd like to have the minister look at a different rate for people traveling from Prince Rupert or the outlying areas down south, so that their travel down south for whether it's medical reasons or whatever is a lot safer in the long run.
Okay.
Just a point of clarity. It reads, North Coast residents traveling from Prince Rupert to Vancouver Island. Can I assume that what we're intending there is that it's a round trip, so they can come back?
Yeah, well, generally speaking, if you have a rate Vancouver or Prince Rupert or Port Hardy, it's the same rate coming back. You know, they're not going to hold you captive down there and charge you more, I hope.
Councillor Nish.
Just wanted to know if this is, the way you're talking about is you'd like to see a reduced rate for you know, say residents. The way this is written is only for the winter months. Now, is this something that you'd want to see year round, the winter rate all year round? Or is this something that you want to have only during the winter?
What I'd like to see is Haida Gwaii has a residence rate for the summer, which is the winter rate in summer months. So they get it's like a 15% reduction in the fare. I'd like to see us get that resident rate, but I would like to see a reduction even further on the winter rate when people are traveling from here down south. So when the ferries actually dropped, it was around 2 years ago, they dropped the fare down 15%, the rideage went up considerably. And this would probably take 1 to 2 years for people to get used to and see where the rideage goes, you know, the number of people using it versus, so the volume of people using it might make up for the reduction. It's just something that I would like, I think if we send a letter to the minister, at least they're going to look at it and come up with some sort of solution in that, because the ferry fares are set by the Ferry Commission. And the fact that the Ferry Commission is very influenced, like BC Ferries is actually a contractor, and they're given so much money to do so many trips. And then anything past that, you have to come up with a business plan for it. But the Minister of Transportation can direct them to do different things. And this is why I thought if we send a letter, at least get them thinking about it and maybe go someplace with it.
I'm just thinking for clarity on your letter, like, because the way it's written here is it's saying just for winter months, but if you ideally want a reduced rate year round for North Coast residents, then we should probably write the letter to state that, is all I'm saying. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, well, actually, when we originally discussed it, I was talking about a residence rate for the summer months, which is the winter rate, but a further deduction on the winter rate, just for, you know, clarity.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think it hurts to ask, and if we're going to ask, then I don't know why we wouldn't ask for it all. So I just want to get clarity here, Councillor Cunningham, because I think I understand what you're saying, which would be essentially whatever the percentage discount of the Haida Gwaii resident rate from summer to winter, you're asking for them to apply that same percentage discount from the winter rate to a residence rate. Is that correct?
What I'd like to see is the resident rate for the North Coast, which means the winter rate in summer months, which is, you know, they've got shoulder, peak rates. You'd have to go on the ferry schedule and fares to see it, but there's definitely a higher rate in the summer. And the resident rate is what is all year round. It's the winter rate, which is a lower rate. What I'm also asking for from us is not only the resident rate for the summer on the North Coast, which is what Haida Gwaii already has, but I'd also like to see a further reduction in the winter rate to make it more attractive for people to use the ferry in the winter months. It's still very expensive even in the off season. You know, it's you know, I just came back from and used it, and it was like $600-700 for a car or two people. You know, just to walk onto the ferry right now is $160. You know, it's. I still think it's an extension of the highway, and you know, it's too expensive for North Coast residents to use in the winter, and so they jump in their car and drive down that highway, and it's a crapshoot.
Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great idea. Just want to make sure, clarify, like, are we asking for medical travelers or for all residents?
For all residents. Medical is usually covered already, but you know, this is for all residents. It's for people if they want to go south to visit relatives or anything like that. It's a little bit more attractive for them to do it.
Any other comments, Councillor Ady?
Just because there's been several questions around clarity, I'm wondering whether what you see envision as a process. Are we suggesting that we would pass this recommendation on to staff and then they would sort through all of these various points and then we'll send a letter? Or are we suggesting that we create a draft that we can come back to and have a look at and make sure we're all happy with? I'm just not sure which way you're intending it to go.
I think staff has grasped the situation, residence rate for the summer, which is the winter rate, and a reduction in the winter rate. So we're asking for the resident rate in the summer, which is the actual winter rate, but the winter rate, we're asking for a further reduction so people can use it.
We have it.
While
Yeah,
we pass a, oh,
Sorry,
that's great.
I'm jumping in. I don't mean to object to the idea. I think it's a good idea. I'm with everybody else that way. I just think sometimes you need to make sure the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, right? So.
Definitely.
On that note, I'll second it. I think we have made a motion.
Okay, so the motion is to, would you like to say it again?
The motion's to write a letter to the Minister of Transportation asking for resident rate for North Coast residents in the summer and a further reduction in the winter rate during winter months.
Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Skelton Marvin. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, we're moving on to reports and inquiries from members of council. I do have something I'd like to say tonight. As many folks have seen, there has been an article that has been released and a news item about the city's water. And so we just want to remind residents again of the facts around our water supply. So one thing that's very important for community to understand is that the city's does not have lead pipes and we are not delivering lead to people's homes. So the ultimate issue right now is that we have a naturally lower pH water system. And if you have lead pipes in your home or and your home's been built before 1990 when the plumbing code was updated, you are potentially at risk of having lead pipes and therefore some leaching that may happen in your own home plumbing system or commercial system. And so that being said, one of the comparisons that was made in the article was that we're somehow comparable to Flint, Michigan, which is absolutely a misrepresentation of the issue. The issue in Flint, Michigan, which is tragic and a very acute health crisis, is that Flint, Michigan had nothing but lead pipes in the water system itself, and the residents had no choice but to have lead delivered to their home. Where in Prince Rupert, we don't have lead pipes in the in our water system through the city. And so those are two fundamentally different issues. And so comparing us to that, we believe, is an unfair juxtaposition. On top of that, another issue that came out was they compared some numbers around some of the data that came out around the lead levels. And unfortunately, the media took the first flush data, which is when you first turn on the tap after the water's been sitting for a lengthy period of time, which unfortunately doesn't actually represent what homeowners are actually exposed to, because after you turn on the tap and it runs cold, the water lead levels go well below the Health Canada guidelines, which the media's own data actually proves as well. So unfortunately, it kind of misrepresents and compares apples to oranges, and we don't believe that's a fair representation. However, the good news is that we have, and our entire water system has been fully funded, and now we're moving underway to not only replace the dam, but also to build a new water treatment facility. And the water treatment facility ultimately will correct the pH, which should help with the corrosion issues, which we believe will solve a majority of the leaching issues in the community at most likely a 99.9% effective rate there. So just wanting the folks to know that if you don't know what's in your home plumbing system, please ensure you flush till the water's cold. We have a website set up, princerupert.ca/drinking-water, that has embedded videos and facts around what to do, and we're hoping that over the next couple years that we completely update the city's water supply. But at the meantime, you have the option to flush if you're not aware of what's in your home, and we recommend that if you don't know, that you do flushing. So we just wanted to make sure there was some clarity around that, and that the community understands that you have options available to you right now, and the city itself is doing everything it can to get this water treatment up and running. And that being said, is there any other reports from council? Councilor Cunningham.
A couple of things. One, on the 300 block of 8th Avenue East, there's quite significant speed bumps there to the point where the road is sunk in 2 places almost 9 to 11 inches. And I understand that when they pave 7th Avenue East, which is pretty close to being paved, depending on weather, I guess, that they're going to do something with that. And I just wanted to know if anyone has an idea about the schedule for that and what is happening on 11th East also. I was asked about that the other day.
I can speak to the 7th Avenue East. 7th Avenue is supposed to be paved next week. Of course, this is all weather permitting. As for the traffic calming that's occurred on 8th, the paving company is going to be grinding that one down, and then they'll patch it, and the following year they'll probably come over and do another overlay to even it all out. As for 11th East, I'm not, I believe that should be dealt with fairly quickly.
Thank you. And the other thing is getting on to a point that Councillor Eady brought up about using the cow to bring the RCMP and other agencies in to give a report. I believe it's almost a year and a half ago when this council passed a resolution that we would do things like that, and it's been very sporadic about people coming before council and the cow. So I would like council to give a direction to staff to come up with a schedule of who's coming and when they're coming, so that we know they're coming, because I really think the people in the city want to hear from the RCMP and the fire department. I don't know why, you know, we don't give regular reports on both them, just so people are aware of what's going on. You know, we get asked a lot of questions as councillors, and I think if they come and give the facts and figures, like Councillor Eady had said, then, you know, it's just no one's hiding anything. It's just that if they come out and actually give these figures out, it'll help a lot of people in the community and quash a lot of rumors and that.
Thank you, Councillor. And we have been in contact with the RCMP, and they will be appearing in November.
And I'll also say that a schedule has been developed, and we have actually seen all of their groups come forward this year as well. Like, we've had the Arts Council, we've had the library, we've had other Leicester Center, we've had most of the groups that you've requested come. It's just we haven't made it through the list yet. So RCMP is definitely on the list. We're just pacing it through a year so that there's time for everyone to have their opportunity to have the floor. So a schedule has been developed, and we can show you that internally, who's on what list.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions and comments from council? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Skelton Morvan. All those in favor? Meeting's adjourned.